Hello and welcome to the first inaugural episode of Incredibly Influential Interviews. I'm incredibly influential, and today we're going to be interviewing. Please
Hi,
introduce yourself.
I am Eliza Sky.
Hi, and can you tell us what you do for a living?
So basically, I make a balance between working myself through school as a server, and I also do OnlyFans on the side.
And tell us how you got started on OnlyFans, please.
So I think it was before I could actually get on OnlyFans, is when I had a bunch of my guy friends, of course, let me know that I should definitely do OnlyFans. So, second I turned 18, I signed up as quick as I could, and it's just been going ever since.
And I guess tell us like does it tell you the sort of percentage wise like where you are in terms of like where you're at? Does that show you for does it show everyone, I guess, or does it just
It
show like the top ones?
It is showing everyone, so you can go to your profile and look under like subscribers and followers, and under subscribers, it will show you everyone. And at the top, like certain people can be pinned if you want them to. I usually pin like my best buyers, like people who message me and want extra stuff and actually pay for it. Yeah.
And I guess what has been like the I guess the best part that you've enjoyed doing in like since you started your career on OnlyFans?
I would definitely say just making the content, especially my alone time content. I get to do whatever I want, and honestly, I just have fun just staring at myself in the camera, trying to figure out what's the best angles and how to have fun with it at the same time. It's definitely helping me, help me loosen up and be more myself and more confident.
Yeah, and I guess uh, what do you think has been like a big challenge that you've encountered, like the biggest one at least?
Uh, Probably people who hear about my OnlyFans that particularly don't like me. They like to say things about it, but in the end, if they can see it, that means they're paying for it, and I'm winning in the end.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of like mutually assured destruction there,
Exactly, yeah.
and I think that's definitely a good way to go about it. I think yeah, I guess what do you think are some like misconceptions that you can like sort of like correct? Like
Ooh,
if you could correct like one or two.
probably that I just give handouts, like anyone I see, if they want to hook up, I immediately say yes, just because I put that part of me out there for a lot of people to see. That is definitely not the case. I am a very private person in my personal life. Uh, Definitely way different than what I put out there for OnlyFans viewers to see. It's just not who I am specifically in real life, but it's definitely like a persona that I could take over and run with.
So I guess do you think that do you think that the persona you put out there on OnlyFans on your website, do you think that that is sort of closer to the real you than the persona that you like walk out the door with and like interact with people in public with? Do you think that that is sort of like less accurate?
I
Uh,
think it's quite the opposite actually. I definitely feel more myself being, an introvert, not really putting myself out there as much as most people think I probably should, just like conversational wise and all that. But I think it's just like a fun getaway when I sign on to OnlyFans and talk to the people who make time in their day to want to talk to me. And yeah, it might be just about my body, but some of them, just start asking personal life questions. I get to answer as myself. So I get to integrate who I really am in this other persona that I put out on OnlyFans. But I would definitely have to say that I run with my more personal persona. I like that more.
So I know that you've you know, you've got like a real life like outside of OnlyFans, but do you think that if your OnlyFans became, you know, like more profitable, I guess, do you think you could see it being your main source of income?
Oh yeah, if I get to that point and I don't have to do anything but take a Monday or Tuesday out of my week where I just take content photos for a whole month, that's usually how it works. You take all your content photos in one day and then you make sure you log in every day to talk to your followers and people who pay.
Hmm.
I could definitely see myself running with that as a full-time job, but I am also a workaholic, so I could still definitely see me working at an actual job once I get my degree and everything. I would
Hmm.
definitely try to balance both.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel like perhaps it would be, you know, like I've heard the stories of, you know, a lot of girls are like, oh, I'm just gonna join OnlyFans to, you know, it'll help pay my tuition, it'll help me like deal with like the student loans, but like they will hit these like huge milestones and they'll get very popular, and like eventually, you know, it outpaces anything that you could ever like make with like a normal job. Do you feel like if you got to that point, do you feel like the time that you spent getting your degree, do you feel like that would be like wasted, I guess?
Personally, I wouldn't think it's a waste. I'm definitely a person who likes to help people, and one day I hope to be able to work in a setting where in the healthcare industry where I can help people. I would never see that as a waste, being able to help people. And in a way, OnlyFans, you are helping people, but not quite the same.
Yeah, I I think that's definitely, you know, it's a different way of helping people, but I think that is a perspective on like of like viewing like the way that that works, and I think, you know, I think if that works for you, then you know that's probably good.
Yeah,
But
and of course, I personally can't say like if I did get that big, how it would affect my life because I've never seen that type of money that some of these women make on OnlyFans. But I definitely try to stay a little bit true to myself, where I follow through with my career, or
mhm,
that's what I hope for at least.
yeah. Do you um I guess um do you ever feel like perhaps if you sell that part of yourself, if you put that value sort of on your body and like on that level of intimacy, do you ever feel like once you like if you've since you've commodified it, do you feel like it's become less valuable? Do you, uh, I guess, do you ever feel like maybe since you've put a price tag on it, like normal intimacy without, you know, recording content, I guess, do
Yeah.
you feel like perhaps like since you put a price tag on it, you know, every time you do it without monetizing it, it's kind of a waste. Do you ever feel yourself, you know, like worrying about like, well, you know, if I'm doing this, you know, off camera, uh should I be doing it? Should I be putting all this stuff on camera? Do you ever worry about like the increasing commodification?
No. The biggest thing with me is any type of personal intimacy you either have with yourself or with someone else, it there's no price tag on that, especially if you're enjoying it. And that's what I think when I make content is I could do that for free for fun because it's like self gratification almost, but with a price tag. So when I'm alone or with someone else doing it, I definitely don't feel like I am missing out. And in a way, it's getting more experience, you know? And once you start thinking that, oh, it's a waste and everything, you're going to lose your passion to even post or do any of that. You have to keep those two lives very separate. And
Yeah,
it might be hard to do for a lot of women, but it's just departmentalizing it, being able to understand that one is just for an income, or if you want to have fun behind the scenes, that's okay too, but in another way. the personal value that comes with intimacy alone with your partner is a different type of value.
Hmm. I I definitely think that. I guess the way I see it is it's definitely not the same. You know we are both sort of content creators. If you're unfamiliar with the show, obviously this is the incredibly influential and highly successful podcast. Obviously, highly successful is not here with us. This is sort of my own little show, but I often feel like when I'm talking with him outside of the recording booth, like we will have these like long like conversations, but I'm like, for me, I have always felt like sometimes we'll go through really good material. We'll go through stuff that really like makes us laugh and stuff, but I'm like, oh shit, we should be saving all this energy and all this banter for the podcast. And I'm always worried, like, you know, if we really like run out of stuff to like talk about because we talk in our own personal lives, when we
Yeah.
can find time. I I I wonder if I guess that putting a price tag on like our banter and our relationship, I think definitely did that for
Yeah,
me. I
for
guess
sure. But the
um
thing with is communication, you can't have the same conversations again, but you can definitely experience different thing or the same thing, recreate the same thing in bed if you would want to.
yeah, yeah, I definitely think um, that is a very valid perspective. And I think that's a good way of looking about it. Is like, you've got the whole, like I guess. Well, I guess it depends. Like, do you include like your partner in your content? I guess. Maybe that might change your perspective, or maybe not.
Definitely. We haven't gotten to that point yet just because right now on my OnlyFans it is set to a low price for a reason. I want to do some personal things first, get it up and running, and once I get enough people saying, "Hey, we would like to see you with someone else," I will definitely do that.
And has your partner expressed interest in joining you? I guess on
He sorry. Yeah, he definitely does. He would also like to make his own. He always has these mental setbacks for himself, which I had the same when I first started. Like, oh, I wish I was like 10 pounds lighter or whatever. And he just wants to be, six pack, chiseled. He already is, but he always sees something that he can perfect. And in a way, I feel like that's just him being a little worried to put himself out there like that. But he said if it was ever on my end of content, he would definitely do it. I would just have to ask, and I would love to, but I'm still having a little bit more fun doing my own personal content. I definitely foresee myself asking him to join in the next month or two once I hit the ground running with my new release that's coming out tonight.
Yeah, I think you guys will be hearing this on Friday. The when is that going to be? The 14th or 15th? I don't know numbers.
I
The
believe
14th.
it's 14th, yeah.
Yes. So on Friday, the 14th, you guys will be hearing this. Um, yeah, I think that's definitely I think definitely that is like a valid like healthy way of like looking at it from how it sounds. Obviously, I have no experience with this whatsoever. Um, but yeah, I think that sounds pretty like healthy and stuff. Um, I guess really what do you feel about other content creators commodifying like the girlfriend experience? Obviously that didn't start on OnlyFans. Obviously that's been around as long as prostitution has been, and it's the oldest profession in the world for a reason, you know but
Oh
like
yeah.
how do you feel about like selling that type of that fake I price tag on that like type of intimacy? Do you think that that is having an effect on like like real I like
Like real
relation
experiences
yeah,
and your
organic
relationship.
relationships. Yeah.
Yes. It honestly just depends on the content creator and how much they let get to them. And I think as long as you're true to yourself, and if you're working with a partner, you're staying true to them and making sure they're comfortable every step of the way. There shouldn't be any issues with feeling like one part is connected to like your online basis and the other part's like, oh, you're offline so you can act a different way or be a different way. I
Hmm.
think that if you speak to each other, communicate, and understand that one thing online doesn't mean you have to act differently offline, and you work with them, you can definitely have the same experiences, like redo those experiences offline. You don't always have to share everything you do together in bed, but if they both if both parties agree with it, it really shouldn't affect the personal relationship. You just really have to listen to your partner and to yourself.
Hmm. Uh, I guess back to kind of what I was saying about like commodification, because I did kind of have another thought about this. Do you ever worry that like if someone does offer you, exorbitant amounts of money to do perhaps things maybe that you're not like fully uncomfortable with, but like if you're not quite there yet, if you're like working yourself up to it, do you ever feel like perhaps if you're being offered those exorbitant amounts and like those massive dollarinos, I guess is do you worry that perhaps you would like sort of lose sight of yourself and like because if people are willing to pay and and you're willing to provide, do you feel like maybe you could lose sight of yourself in that?
It is definitely a thing that I have thought about. I've already had a couple of people text me and on OnlyFans and message me and let me know that this is what they would like. And there was this one specific person with a situation that I just did not feel comfortable doing. And yeah, I could do it. It is physically possible for me to do it, but I just let them know like, "Hey, I'm sorry. That is just one thing that's off limits for me.
Hmm.
Not a fan of doing that. Just let me know if there's anything else, but I'm sorry I can't take you up on that." Or I had another situation where I just haven't gotten to that point in my content quite yet to do exactly what this guy wanted, and I just gave him a little time frame. I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna work up to that, and as soon as I start feeling comfortable with myself to be able to do that, I will definitely get that to you." And I just definitely want to stay true to myself with how I feel and what I want to do. And if moving forward I change my mind and I don't want to do it, I will reach out and apologize. And if they are not a fan of that, that is perfectly fine. It's in this business, it's definitely all about the creator and what they're comfortable with.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. I guess uh I I I think we all kind of you know we want to hear like what is like a story that you can obviously nothing too racy, of course.
Oh, yeah.
um you know this episode is not going to be sponsored at all, but uh but like yeah, we're not running ads on this at all, but the the
I don't think they'd let you.
no, god no, no one would want to do this. So yeah, no, yeah, but like I guess without getting too much into detail, what is what is a I guess a positive story, like a success story that you've had, um and I guess it I you kind of already told us about a a story where you were kind of like no no thank you,
Yeah.
um
Um,
but like if you've had like any other negative experiences.
I just so far I've only had that one negative experience. I is it okay if I go into a little bit more detail before I get to the good one about that past one, or are we not going that
um
deep?
I I mean, I a little bit of detail.
Okay,
Keep
okay.
it as PG-13 as possible.
Oh, okay. So that guy that I denied that one service that he would like, he wasn't offering the right amount of money for what I was going to do.
Hmm.
He wanted physical things sent to him, and you can take that as you wish. And what he was willing to pay wasn't even enough to ship it to him, and it just wasn't in my comfort zone. And
Hmm.
in the future, I could see like sending someone my shoes or underwear. I get that, but what he wanted specifically, I was not willing to do.
Hmm.
And it's perfectly okay to say no. And he stopped subscribing to me after that because after I told him, well, if I was to do that, it would have to be a lot more, he started to refuse to pay at all. So if you have people like that, it's better for them not to be on your page. And on the flip side, I also have some people who ask for doable things, like things that I present on my main OnlyFans. They would just like a private version of it, so they're the only people who see it. And I've had this one specific guy. He's great. He whenever he texts me, he asks about, "Oh, when's your next post?" But then he starts asking like, "Oh, when are you going to like what do you play video games as?" And like random conversations that I know makes his day because he sees me as a totally different person than I would be in real life having this conversation. It's like almost a gratification thing for him that I am speaking to him about normal everyday things, but I also put content out like that. He asked for a specific video, and I was like, yeah, I can totally do that for you. And I was unsure of the video when I first made it. I felt like I just didn't look the best. I wasn't that big of a fan, but it was something I was willing to put out, and I gave it to him, and he paid for it, which was amazing on top of it. And he thought it was great, and now he asks all the time for different things like that, and I just feel comfortable because I feel like no matter what I look like to me, he sees me as a lot better in those videos. I definitely feel really good about that.
Yeah, I'm, I'm happy for you that you can, sort of find that sort of gratification, perhaps not in the most, you know, work appropriate setting, of course, but like, I'm glad that like, you know, we're human, things are going on. And it's harder and harder to find, something that really like makes you happy. And, I'm glad that it works for you and this customer. And yeah, yeah, it sounds like this is a really, really, like positive experience for you. I guess what would you sort of say to someone who this is like two faceted, right? What would you say to someone who doesn't have like the highest opinion of um like OnlyFans work, sex work, that sort of thing?
I
Yeah.
For that, I would definitely say that when people hear sex work, they definitely think like, oh, prostitute on the side of the road in Las Vegas type of thing. But in the end, there's hundreds of different ways to do sex work, and this way is just sending nudes to a public platform. And I think when people view it wrong, it could either be what they do religiously or what they just think in personal beliefs, how they view women or men. Um, it's just a personal opinion, and if they don't like it, the thing that I like to say is don't involve yourself with it. Like, if you don't want to hear anything about OnlyFans, your phones and everything, they pick up on what you like. If you search things or say certain things, they'll put that out there for you. And if you don't say any of those things or search any of those things, you're never going to hear about it. So it's definitely something that you just have to anything is out there. I I don't like certain things, and if I don't like those things, I don't look them up. I don't like get anything on any of my feeds about it. I just ignore it. And I think that people with those views with sex workers should do the same thing.
All right. And what would you say to someone who is thinking about joining, who's like maybe they're in a tight spot financially, or maybe they just think it could be fun. What would you say to like a prospective new creator?
Definitely don't put yourself out there if you wouldn't want your parents to see it. No matter how hard you try, especially with OnlyFans, there's a radius. So you can choose a radius for your whole hometown not to see it. Like if you have a specific address, you can put that address in and those people won't see it. But somehow everything always gets back to you and it's always going to be out there. And I use a fake name, which most people do, but no matter how hard you try, it can always catch up to you. It is a good form of income, even if you have two or three subscribers or so. If you set your price right, you're making a decent amount of money, enough to buy you food for the week. Um, it's definitely like you, I don't know exactly how to put it. You don't really want to put yourself out there unless you know for sure that you're okay with that.
Hmm.
And like if
Is
you're
that
younger, it's definitely something you don't want to dive into too quick.
is that what you is that like the sort of thing that you wish someone had told you before you had like gotten into it?
Thankfully, I had someone who was a pretty good mentor with this. She, you know, does OnlyFans, works at a strip club. She kind of took me in. She warned me about these things beforehand, and I was okay with it. When I first started it, I went right to my mom and let her know, which is probably terrifying for most people. But it's something that you have to do if you don't want to worry constantly, and if you don't want to do that, you're probably 50-50 they might not find out, but it's definitely nice to have guidance and speak to someone who's doing the same thing in the same situation. uh Things like that. Like I definitely don't regret any of my decisions going forward just because I had the help that I needed to get started and the support.
Hmm.
But if you are freshly 18, have super strict parents, things like that, it's probably not the best idea.
All right. And I guess uh, what would you say to perhaps someone who might be seeing someone who's thinking about doing it, like being romantically involved with someone who's thinking about doing it, or maybe someone who has met someone who is doing it and is romantically interested in them and is still sort of like on the fence about that? What would you say to like someone who has a prospective partner who is creating on the platform?
It's probably not the best idea to get involved if you are more of the jealous type because you have to think about it. That person, let's say you just met someone and you really like them and you know they do OnlyFans, and every time you think about it, you get this little gut feeling. Most women know this. The gut feeling that you get when you have a bad feeling about a relationship or anything like that, it's probably not the best idea because you don't want to get in between a person and their work. And OnlyFans, in a sense, people don't see it as work, but you do have to put time and effort into it. And that's time and effort spent away from that partner. But if you want to be supportive and everything, you can help them, take photos for them, get involved, do behind the scenes producing and running accounts and all that. It definitely just depends on what type of person you are. If you're more of the jealous type, it's not gonna be that good of an idea, especially if you can't like compartmentalize it and just put that away because in a way those people are never gonna really have full contact with your partner, but they are still seeing very vulnerable parts of them and you know enjoying those parts of them that you only you should be enjoying, or whatever people say, you know? So it is hard to get used to, but if you are the person who has an OnlyFans and a partner comes into your life or was pre existing, you definitely want to check with them. And their opinion might not matter as much, but with me and my partner, he definitely was one of the big influences to help me start up. And I think without his vote of confidence and all that, I don't think I'd be able to be where I am now.
Yeah, I think that's uh I think that's a pretty uh insightful response. Thank you. And I I can't really think of any more questions. I guess is there anything else you want people to like know about, and anything else you wanna add before we conclude?
Well, let me think here. I'd say the best takeaway from this whole podcast and everything that I've said so far would be, if you are truly passionate about doing this, you always have to expect the worst in people, which isn't great, but you need to be cautious about exactly what you're putting out there, especially if you have your face involved. Definitely see warning signs of different people who are trying to speak to you, and make sure that you are very aware of what you're putting out. A lot of people, they take the photos, they send it out, and they don't realize what they're really doing until a couple months down the road, and they're like, I wish I never would have done this. You really have to be at peace with what you're doing before you even put out your first post. And it it is a little nerve-wracking at the beginning, you know, but once you feel the support, if you, especially if you have support, it is a lot better to work through. And if you don't have the support, definitely try to reach out to someone you may know mutually that also is doing the same thing for words of advice, or, you know, might be a far shot, but, or a long shot. Definitely reach out to someone who, you know, has their ropes in with OnlyFans. They know what they're doing. A lot of people do contact you back. I'm not saying go contact Bella Thorne, who millions of subscribers, but someone who's a little bit higher up in the industry. Ask them a few questions. Usually they have a an email attached to everything, a business email. You can give them an email, ask questions. I did that once and I did get a couple of responses that were pretty good. And definitely, if you want to make money, make sure you do your research on what all you have to do for OnlyFans, because it's not just getting online once a week to post. It's making sure that the second that someone follows you, there's a contact message sent out, which I am still working on, and I'm a couple months in down the road. I just can't quite figure it out. So I'm getting some help on that. So the second when someone subscribes to you, it sends them a message saying, hey, this is who I am, this is what I offer. And that's usually a good gateway into getting into personal messages with them, where they're willing to spend more money on top of their subscription to see certain things. And definitely making sure you're making that personal connection, even though you might not be acting like yourself, making that persona connect with them. It definitely helps them want to stay more engaged and keep coming back, and just be like, oh, I got on OnlyFans once just to look at this one photo, and I stopped subscribing after I saw that. You want to keep those subscribers, keep that money, and it is a lot more work than I even thought it was going into it, but in the end, it's definitely worth it.
Thank you. It's really interesting to sort of see, you know, that that the industry, and I guess even just things that you're not used to, and being able to like, talk to someone who knows what's going on and like has experience with it. And if you're, I guess, if you're like on the fence about like, do you support this kind of thing, I guess, um I hope this really, uh maybe we gave you some things to think about. And if you're thinking about joining, again, things to think about. And yeah, I guess thank you very much, Eliza, for agreeing to be here. Is very cool to have you for the inaugural episode of this new series.
Oh, yeah, no
And
problem. It was a real joy for me to actually join this and get to talk about it because most people don't even know I do this. So it's nice to be able to openly communicate.
well, thank you for being here. We have loved having you. You know, perhaps if you guys wanna hear a sequel to this, our Twitter handle and our Instagram handle is at IIHS all letters podcast. So all one word. And on Patreon, uh, at patreon.com/IIHS podcast, all one word again. And if you want to leave some support there, that'd be very helpful. I would like to thank out our patron Justin Connor for helping us to get these episodes out to you. It's very appreciated. Thank you, Justin. And yeah, I've been incredibly influential, and you've been Eliza Sky. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you guys next time.